Now I would like to introduce the first speaker of today's session, Dr. Sudhakar Venukapali, Advisor, Center for Innovations in Public System, Hyderabad, Professor of Education at Department of Education at the English and Foreign Language University. Dr. Venukapali is an academician with special interest and expertise in the field of education. His vast experience in this field makes him an excellent knowledge provider to aspiring educationists, teachers, and instructors. Through sound theory, matched with long years of practice both in the academic field and corporate field, makes him a valuable source of learning for all of us. A warm welcome to you, Venukapali sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll share my screen and then start my presentation.
Sure, sir.
You have given me 10 minutes time, madam.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Is the presentation visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. We are able to view it.
At the outset, I thank the organizers of this national conference on tertiary education dropouts. It's a great opportunity for me to be here. I have a couple of ideas on tertiary education dropouts. From my own experiences, I try to reflect on this. The topic is challenges of tertiary education dropouts. And friends, we are addressing this particular issue in the present global, in the context of global crisis in economy, polity, culture, and education. There's a crisis in higher education, which we all know. Crisis in various forms, it is getting manifested. And there is also a crisis in digital space, how the social media and social spaces are, encroaching into our privacy, security.
Dr. Venukapali,
Yes,
if you could share your screen in a, this full screen, that means slideshow.
Yeah, then it's it will be difficult for me to handle.
Okay. No problem. Then that's fine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Whatever is comfortable. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So I have been mentioning about the context in which we are discussing the dropout discourse. There's a lot of divide today. There is a digital divide. There is a lot of virtual divide. And there's a crisis everywhere, in the field of education, in the field of health, in the field of public distribution system. In every way we see, we are not happy. No one is comfortable. The division between, people is increasing phenomenally day by day. And in this context, National Education Policy 2020 has been introduced by Government of India to address some of the issues and problems related to higher education. Friends, I'll just go to the topic itself. When we say dropout in higher education at tertiary level, it's a very complex. Dropout is not a simple concept. It's a very complex concept. And it is also contesting. People don't agree with, one single definition of dropout. And the school dropout phenomenon, school I mean here, the institutions of higher learning, are very complex and generated by a multitude of individual, institutional, social, and economic factors that do not have an isolated influence. When somebody is dropping out of the institution, it is going to impact on the economy of the country. It disturbs the economy of the country. There is no single definition, as I mentioned, for the concept of college dropout. Dropout sometimes is deliberate or forced to act by which the students abandon the classroom or educational institution. Let me first understand what is this dropout is. I'll show a couple of slides to understand the idea of dropout itself, its semantic potential. As I mentioned, dropout may be voluntary, dropout may be incurred kind of dropout. Some students are forced to, when they violate certain regulations, they're forced to send out of the institution, or there may be many other potential dropouts. But in general, dropout refers to those persons who have the college at which they are registered, and only to those persons who never receive a degree from any institution of higher education. This is a general idea of dropout. And dropout, when you say dropout versus push out, dropout, the decision of dropping out belongs to the student, and it is based on his or her individual features. The phenomenon coincides with a form of college misfit, with the lack of social and professional expectations, the absence of the self-accomplishment needs. And when we talk about push out, the school fosters the decision of dropout, which becomes the expression of failure in implementing the school insertion policies as an institutional issue and as a problem of the society that lacks efficient prevention and intervention strategies. I'm just showing you certain meanings of various dimensions of dropout. And when you talk about pull out, there are many theories which talk about, the dropout or pull out, which associate the student's decision to leave college with factors such as early marriage, having a baby, financial issues, and need to get employed in order to support their family. And these theories assume the fact that students underlie the decision to stay in college or not on a cost-benefit analysis, not on economic reasons. These theories consider the individual in a contextual way, in which college is an important part of his life, along with his family, colleagues, temples, and cultural places and organizations. And when you talk about push-out perspectives, they consider that college is to blame for the dropout because it discourages students regarding continuing studies using as an argument their personality traits. Internal institutional factors such as behavioral policies or the conflicts between students or teachers may push the students outside the college. The push-out theoreticians claim that students leave school not due to their individual attributes, but because of school structure. The factors, structural, contextual, climate-related or individualized, and may determine some students to consider college as an unwelcoming place. There are different types. We can also categorize dropouts with respect to time and space. When you talk about with respect to time, there are premature dropouts, early dropouts, and late dropouts. And when you come to with respect to space, internal or academic program dropouts, institutional dropouts, and total dropout of the education system. There are different ways, dimensions of dropouts. Friends, when we come to understand dropouts, to discuss, to identify the challenges of dropouts, we need to first understand what are the potential predictors. And potential predictors are individual factors, family factors, institutional factors, cultural and community factors, national factors, and factors at global level. And all these are not independent to each other. They are all are interactive factors. That understanding is very important to understand the dropout issues. When you say dropout factors, individual factors, we can easily categorize them into demographic factors and psychological behavior factors. And demographic factors like gender, caste, class, geographical, nativity status, language background, disabilities, and psychological behavior factors, academic ability, achievement, grade retention, reputation, educational and occupational aspirations, engagement with teachers and the institution, whatnot. And when you come to the individual factors, academic achievement and ability, research has shown that if higher the academic achievement ability, lower the dropout risk. This is a finding. And if higher academic and professional aspirations of students, then the lower the dropout risk. And if more grade retention, teacher-initiated grade retention and accumulation of credit deficits, then higher dropout risk. Some of these things are quite obvious from our experiences. If stronger engagement with the student, engagement in the sense emotional, cultural, whatnot, academic, and if stronger the engagement, lower dropout risk. And if positive attitudes, feelings, perception, traits, and this part of it, it also lowers the dropout risk. And if the case of early pregnancy, this is a case in many places, and higher the dropout risk. When you come to the family factors, structural characteristics, we can identify as a socioeconomic status, and which parental education, employment, family structure, and it's whether single or nuclear families or joint families, or underlying processes like social capital, relationship between parents, that's a very important capital. Cultural capital, parental education. These two are very, very important components which influence students' dropout. We need to understand them. And understanding these factors will make us to identify what kind of challenges we need to address. Friends, with respect to family structure, if no biological family structure, two-parent family, higher dropout risk. And if free from stressors, warm, supportive family culture and climate, then lower dropout risk. These are all research findings. I'm quickly, placing before you. If higher socioeconomic status, parental education, parental employment, and lower dropout risk. And when you come to the institutional factors, how inclusive the institution is, in its student composition is a very important factor. And institutional resources, the size of the classroom, teacher-pupil ratio, structural characteristics of the institutions, institutional policies and practices, examination policy, whatnot, instructional, pedagogical practices, social and academic climate, and teacher and teaching quality, and school social campus student-teacher relationships. All these things contribute, influence students' achievement, performance, and dropouts. When you come to the institutional factors, the research findings are, if selective, independent, and with high promoting power, institutional type, there is a lower dropout risk. When the institution is more democratic, there is a lower dropout risk. And if higher teacher-pupil ratio or larger class size of school resources, higher dropout risk. And if challenging and inclusive problem-free school academic environment, then lower dropout risk. And if higher teachers' experiences, expectations, support, and teaching quality, lower dropout risk. And if positive with strong cohesion and care, if that kind of relations are existing in the institution, then lower dropout risk. And if more social discrimination and prejudice in the institution, then higher dropout risk. It happens with gender and caste. And if more jobs available, unstable job patterns, higher stress at work, longer working hours, and work for family support, so much employment conditions of teachers and other, then you find higher dropout risk. And if positive influence from high aspiring and achieving peers, friends and peer networks, then lower dropout risk. And if more distressing neighbor characteristics and in which environment students are, then that depends on higher dropout risk. Friends, I am coming to the challenges of dropouts at tertiary level. One of the important challenges is finding economic support, scholarships. And if we compare the Western world, in most of the developed countries, there are many philanthropic organizations, charity-oriented organizations, and government also comes out with different kinds of fellowships and scholarships. And that is not happening in our country. So this is a major challenge, how best we can motivate the state and politicians to understand the dropouts at tertiary level and their importance to economic growth and development. That's a very, very important. And most of the colleges, come to rural part of India, you don't find any kind of financial support to them. And finding quality institutions with quality teachers, curriculum, and pedagogical practices are very, very important for, arresting the dropouts. This is a very big challenge. How best we can, come out with a quality institution with the higher standards of quality teachers who can do good research and teaching. And also, big challenge for students who are dropping out is learning resources. There are many learning resources available on the internet, but they don't have access to internet. I'm talking about students who are at the lower strata who are dropping out, in terms of print material, digital material, they don't have any access. And, most of the dropout students are economically weak and they need some kind of part-time employment and opportunity, that kind of opportunity to support their families and support their own education. Such kind of opportunities are not available. This is a big challenge, how best we can, create that kind of opportunities. And also finding hostels, accommodation, security, especially for girls in towns and cities, is a very, very big problem. There's a lot of violence outside, then parents are scared to send, girls to higher education. And sometimes girls, in between, they drop out because of security issues. And these are the important sociological issues which we need to understand. And most importantly, friends, the entire system of education which we have established is designed on the basis of Eurocentric models. The big challenge is how best we can deconstruct these models of education and arrive at indigenous, Bharat-centric indigenous models of education. We are totally obsessed with Cartesian epistemology, which divides mind and body, work from knowledge. This kind of distinction between binary division between mind and body, it's a very dangerous kind of thing. But in our institutional ethos, our institutional practices are designed on such Cartesian epistemological framework. We need to challenge this. This is a very, very important challenge for me. And mostly the entire system of evaluation, it is knowledge-centric. We in the institutions at tertiary level construe education in terms of knowledge, which is in narrow, very in static terms. And evaluation itself, the process of evaluation is not trustworthy. So many students, they have raised their voices. This we have been experiencing. The design of education itself is not based on comprehensive cognitive, factors. Cognition itself is not just knowledge, not just a memory. Cognition is very complex. There are, how students represent knowledge, how do they solve problems? There are so many aspects in cognition itself, and there are non-cognitive factors. There are emotional factors, aesthetic factors, all such important, vital parts of human existence have been excluded from our university and tertiary education, and a narrow, philosophy of, tertiary education has been projected. And that is the reason we are not able to relate, students' knowledge with their prior experiences. It is not happening anywhere. Friends, my last slide. The big challenge is we need to come out with an alternative institutional models of learning, which are very flexible in its timings. And the entire ecosystem we need to, change. And establishing quality institutions and addressing the needs of students. And at a national level, the policy initiatives and policy implementation, we need to have an integrated approach, because everything is connected with other things. Students' dropouts is related with high price rise. And student dropout is also related with the crisis in the public distribution system. Students' dropout is related to the health benefits, non-availability of health benefits. There are so many factors which are social, political, economic. At the larger level, with a larger framework, we need to understand the dropouts at the tertiary level. And most importantly, friends, we need to humanize our institutions of learning. This is a very big challenge, how teachers and in the leaders of the institutions become more humane, and they take the student to their heart and support them. That kind of humanization of institutions of learning is very, very important. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this great opportunity, madam. Thank you very much. I stop it here.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful detailed presentation that you have made. So thank you once again, sir.